Very good morning. Here, students, in last class, we have revised up to the topic of refraction at spherical surfaces. So, I think up to that topic completely now you have reminded of all the data that you have studied before. Now, let's start today to discuss the next topic of the chapter, that is lens maker's formula. So, I must tell here this equation is very important because using this one we are constructing any lens, so that's why it is also just named as lens maker formula, because uh, of which focus we have to make the lens, we can decide that from here. So let's see now how can we formulate it by this ppt. You will see this one. So in this ppt, this is our lens ln, you can see now. And it is given here the two medias we have. One media outside the lens, that is mu1, and other media that is inside the lens, that has refractive index mu2. Now this is principal axis here. You can see there are two poles of the lens, because there are two refracting surfaces in the lens now. And this is c is the center, and c1 and c2 are the center of curvature, or centers of the spherical surfaces through which the lens are made up of. Now suppose some object o we have kept on the principal axis, as it is shown now. So whenever light will pass through that object, and or that will fall on the first refracting surface, then that time that light, if we will just neglect the second refracting surface, then it will go, as you can see, and it is after refraction, actually at first refracting surface it will make image I1 now. But here, as we have two refracting surface, then that time this image I1 that is formed here, that will serve as the object for the second refracting surface. Means the second refracting surface will not make the image of exactly the object o, it will start to make the image of that the image obtained by the first refracting surface I1. So let's see how the image finally it will be formed. It is normal, it is again just seeing angle of incidence is located here. And first, as here we are not going to just make first of all the second one, because of less confusion. So here for refraction at it is showing lp1n. So you can see in figure lp1n easily. And for that means refraction at first refracting surface. So we had formula for the refraction at a spherical surface. For that one, this formula that we have got now, uh, then we have used this formula. Here you can see mu1 upon co is what, that is distance of object, plus mu2 upon ci1 is the distance of image, that is equal to mu2 minus mu1 upon cc1 is the center of or radius of curvature exactly. Now if we will put the here next one, if again we will make the final image, that for that one, as this image I1 is serving as object, means light will incident on the second refracting surface, that is lp2n. Then that time it will make the, again it will feel refraction, it will make final image I. So you can see now the whole figure here. And again let's see the equation for the second one, that is refraction at lp2n. We can write down now this formula, that is mu2 upon minus of ci1 here, that ci1 is serving as the object now, plus mu2 upon ci is serving as the image, and is equal to minus of mu1 minus mu2 upon cc2. Cc2 is what, that is radius of curvature of second refracting surface. Now next one, if we will combine these two equations that we have got now, that is the after this combining them, one part will be cancelled out from here, that is here you can see this part and this part. Here this will be cancelled out when we will add these two equations. So we will get finally this equation now, you can see, that is mu1 upon co plus mu1 upon ci, that is equal to in bracket you can see this one, and this we have got. Now we have to put the values of CO, CI, CC1 and CC2 only. So if you will see in figure again now, here this value of CO, that is exactly object distance, that is denoted by U. Value of CI is image distance, denoted by V. And here uh, CC1, that is the radius of curvature R1. CC2 is radius of curvature R2. And with by using sign convention, if you will put now the values, so it will have here values, that is minus 1 upon U plus 1 upon V is equal to mu 2 minus mu 1 upon mu 1. Here what it is done in the equation, mu 1 is taken as common and we have divided this mu 1 here in this equation, in this one you can see that. Now next one, if R1 R2 all the values we will just keep, then final value we have obtained now this one. And again you can rearrange the equation and you can find out mu 2 upon mu 1, and that mu 2 upon mu 1 is equal to relative refractive index mu. So you can just write down your whole equation in this form. So this equation is now finally known as lens maker formula. So here some of the conditions you can see. When the object is kept at infinity, the image is formed at principal focus, that is for U is equal to minus infinite, we can write down V is equal to, or we can see V is equal to F. So here in this equation, if you will put now or generally you can put 1 by V minus 1 by U, that is the thin lens formula. So 1 by F will be equal to mu minus 1, 1 upon R1 minus 1 upon R2 from here. So as you can see now, this formula is the general form of the lens maker formula, through which we can decide of which focus we have to make the lens, we have to construct the lens. And while constructing the lens completely, the lens construction is depending on the refractive index of the material of the lens. Second one, it is depending on the radius of curvatures of the refracting surfaces through which we are going to make the lens. So greater you are taking the radius of curvature, according to that one the focus will change, and for the material also it will change there. So you can see now from this above equation, here we can easily make the lens, we can construct the lens, we can decide or we can fix the focus of the lens. And now again by this equation also we can formulate the thin lens formula, because here we have seen that 1 by F is equal to 1 by V minus 1 by U. Now next one, let's see the focus of the lenses here. So first principal focus, if you will see the then first of all its definition is now showing, that is first principal focus is the point on the principal axis of the lens at which if any object is placed, the image would be formed at infinity. Like you can see it by this diagram also, this one. So here you can see now, if first principal focus, that is F1 now, from where if rays will incident on the lens, then that will go to just to parallel, as parallel rays they will meet at somewhere infinity, and that is F1 is first focal length. Now next one, here in as in the case of concave lens also it has been shown this in this way. You can see the first principal focus is the point where we can see, that is the rays are just thought of as they are coming from this point F1, and that is now the first principal. Now second principal focus that we are using generally, let's see that is the second principal focus is the point on the principal axis of the lens at which the image is formed when the object is kept at infinity. So if we will keep the object at infinity, or here let's start to see, obviously for object at infinity, the rays that will come, they will be the parallel rays. So whenever the parallel rays that are incident on any lens, then that they goes to focus at some points, and that point is f2, that is known as second principal focus. And the distance from pole to focus, that is known as focal length, is for the concave one. Also you can see there appears to converge at a point f2, that is the second focus. So we can see now in every lens by refracting surfaces, means here if we have two refracting surface, for that case always we have two foci also. Sorry students. So in that two foci, you can see one focus is obtained right side and one is in left side. Generally we are using the second principal focus while we are discussing anything. Now next one, let's see the thin lens formula. So that is also known as the Gaussian form of lens equation. So let's see for convex lens, first of all this equation. Again, first you can see now this figure one by one. I have just denoted it. Center of just optical center point, that is C, we have on principal axis f1 f2, it denoted first focus and second focus. 2 f1 f2 means double focal length is denoted also. Now we have some extended object AB, and light will fall through this AB on the lens, and now we can see the formation of image, that is A dash B dash, that is inverted image. Now the object distance, image distance, and focal length, you can see this is radius of curvature. And now this is the area where we can see these are two exactly triangles, that is ABC and A dash B dash C. We will see these two triangles now, and these two triangles are exactly the similar triangles. So by angle concept you can make them similar, and when they are similar, then obviously we can compare their sides, as we can compare AB with A dash B dash, and similarly we can compare CB with CB dash. So you can see now here A dash B dash upon AB, that is equal to CB dash upon CB. And here again we will see this triangle, that is MCF2 and F2 A dash B dash, then by the green shaded one that you can take, see that. So in this triangle, again they are the similar triangles, you can prove it by geometry easily, by angle concept. And if they are obviously similar triangle, then we can again compare their ratio. So you can see now the comparison of sides, here A dash B dash is compared by MC, and B dash F2 is compared by CF2. Now as this distance MC that you can see is exactly equal to AB, so we can also write down A dash B dash upon AB is equal to B dash F2 upon CF2. Now we will see these two equations are same, so it means we can compare these two equations here. So if you will compare them, then this equation you will get CB dash upon CB is equal to B dash F2 upon CF2. Now also you can write B dash F2 as CB dash minus of CF2. Now we have all the values you can see in this case. CB dash is what? That is the image distance. CB is what? That is object distance. Again CF2 is what? That is the focal length. So let's put all the values here now, and also apply the Cartesian sign convention system. Then you can see now the values here by application of this sign convention also. And if you will put all the values, then you will get this formula, that is now the Gaussian form of lens equation. Now next topic we have, that is the topic of linear magnification. So let's see now the concept of linear magnification. First of all, its definition is: linear magnification produced by a lens is defined as the ratio of the size of the image to the size of the object. So you can see now, the if size of image is I, size of object is O, then we can define linear magnification M is equal to I by O. And now here in previous figure, if I will go here, in previous figure, as we have seen A dash B dash upon AB, this was equal to CB dash upon CB. So we can use that equation again, and we can apply Cartesian coordinate systems its value. Then you will get this one now. So this is the now the values of I by O, that is equal to V by U exactly, and that is the linear magnification for lens. And also we can calculate the magnification in terms of V and F. So you can see M is equal to V minus V upon F. This equation you can find out by using the formula 1 by V is equal to 1 by F is equal to 1 by V minus 1 by U. So you can calculate the value of V by U by just multiplying V in every side. You can see this is V by U, and now you can find out this equation here. Now in as well you can also find out the equation in between in U and F. So you can see this equation. So this is all the linear magnifications formula that you can use whenever you have to find how much magnified image you are getting, or the reduced image you are getting whenever some object is kept in front of any lens. Now next concept is here, that is the power of a lens. So what is the power of a lens? Let's see that. First definition is given here. Power of a lens is its ability to bend a ray of light falling on it, and is reciprocal of its focal length. So when F is in meter, power is measured in diopter. So this is now the unit of the power, that is diopter, and when we are using F in meters. And the power is simple, the you can see reciprocal of the focal length. We can easily find out power by using that one. Now next topic, let's see, that is the refraction of light through prism. So while you can see now in the figure, that is prism has two faces and two refracting surface. So if you will see this figure, then two surfaces you can see, now two bases of the prism, and now here these two surfaces you are seeing, from this one light can be refracted easily. Now these are called the refracting surfaces, and this angle you can see, that is called the angle of prism, and that defines the properties of prism. And whenever light is passing through the prism, then first it gets refracted from the first surface, and again on the second surface it start to refract. Now we can represent in symbolic form the prism as the triangle, that is ABC, where this A angle is again the angle of prism. Suppose mu is the refractive index of the prism. Now whenever light will incident on the surface, then first it will be refracted from surface AB, and then up to the surface AC. If prism has the material that it has that has constant refractive index, then light will go on in a straight line, and then again at surface AC it will start to refract. Now these are two normals that we have drawn on these two surfaces. So we can calculate the angle of refraction and angle of incidence now from the normal. So you can see I is the angle of incidence and E is the final angle of emergent. Along with this one, we can have two angle of refractions and angle of incidence also. Like if I angle of incidence we have at the first surface, when light gets refracted, there will be some angle of incidence R1 and then R2. Now this is angle O, and here if we will just draw this line in further direction, that is the direction of incident ray, and then direction of emergent ray, then again an angle is formed, and that angle is delta, that is known as now angle of deviation. So whenever any light ray that starts to fall on the prism, then prism has some different properties, then light will be deviated from its original path, and that deviation, as it will you will see that it depends on the refractive index, and as refractive index is depending on the wavelength. So that's why whenever in white light that is composed of the seven colors that incident on the prism surface, then angle of deviation is different from for every color, because they have a different wavelengths, and due to that one all components divided here. Now first let's see how can we find out this angle of deviation by using this geometry that we have drawn here. So here we can see now a quadrilateral, that is APOQ. In this quadrilateral we can see now this angle A plus O, that is 180 degree. So here N1 and N2 as that are normal. So in triangle OPQ, if you can see now in this figure OPQ, in that triangle r1 plus r2, that's value will be equal to 180 minus o, or we can also write that one as equal to a. So if you will solve this second equation and first equation, you will find out that r1 plus r2 is equal to a. So angle of prism can be easily calculated by using the refraction angle and incident angle also. Now in triangle DPQ, if you will see angle delta, that is exterior angle of the triangle DPQ. So as we know by the geometry, the exterior angle is the sum of two opposite angles of the triangle. So here two opposite angles we have, that is DPQ and angle DQP. So DPQ, this angle is equal to now I minus R1 by using again geometry opposite angles, and again if you will just take the difference of I minus R1, that will be angle DPQ. And now again as the opposite angle is angle DQO, that is E, and angle DQP, now this will be E minus R2 finally. So we can also take I plus E, so at a single place, and then minus sign R1 plus R2. So as equation 1 and 2 is giving R1 plus R2 is equal to A, so delta can be written as finally here delta is equal to I plus E minus A. Means if we know angle of incidence, angle of emergence, and just angle of prism, then we can easily calculate what will be the angle of deviation. Along with this one, you can also write I plus E is equal to some A plus delta. So sum of the angle of incidence and angle of emergence is equal to the sum of angle of prism and angle of deviation from here. Now let's see the variation of angle of deviation with angle of incidence, how it will vary with that one. So here graph you can see now, when we will plot the graph between angle of deviation and angle of incidence. So this kind of graph we will have. Now in this graph we can see when angle of incidence start to increase, then angle of deviation starts to decrease, and ultimately a point we will get where angle of deviation becomes minimum. So this value of the minimum angle of deviation we are getting when angle of incidence is equal to angle of emergence, that is I is equal to E. For this one we are getting that situation. So you can see this is now represented as delta M. So here finally you can see the definition of minimum angle of deviation also. And now how can we calculate here the refractive index if we know the minimum angle of deviation? So here obviously we are getting minimum angle of deviation for this particular situation when I becomes equal to E and R1 is equal to R2. Obviously that will be automatically equal, and suppose that is equal to R. Now let's calculate the refractive index of material of prism. Up to now we have calculated some properties of the prism, like angle of incidence prism already we know, angle of deviation now we can calculate by using the concept of angle of incidence and angle of emergence. So how can we calculate now the refractive index of material of prism? So as A is equal to R1 plus R2, then here as R1 equal to R2, for this minimum angle of deviation that is equal to R, so we can write here A is equal to 2R, or you can calculate the value of R, that will become A by 2 now. Now next one, as just before we have seen angle of incidence plus angle of emergence, that is equal to angle of prism plus angle of deviation. So from here, as I is equal to E, for that one delta is equal to delta M. Let's use this one. We can write 2I is equal to A plus delta M, and then we can calculate I, that is A plus delta M by 2. Now we have for the refraction the Snell's law. So let's use Snell's law. According to that one, mu is equal to sine I upon sine R1. At the first refracting surface AB, the light will have the incidence angle I and angle of refraction R1. So we can write it I sine I upon sine R. And let's use the value of I and R that we have just calculated now. This will be a help for us to calculate the refractive index of material of prism now. So this was all the information about the prism. Now you can see the refraction by a small edged prism for a small angle of incidence here. So for that one, as this formula we have at two refracting surfaces. Now if I is assumed to be small, then R1, R2 and E, that will be also very small. So we can replace sines of the angle by angles themselves. This guys in we can write this one now as I plus E. If you will calculate here, I is equal to mu r1, E is equal to mu r2. So this will be equal to mu into A. We can write here that is A is equal to I plus E upon mu. And also we know I plus E is equal to A plus delta. So we can write A plus delta is equal to mu A, or in another term we can write delta is equal to A mu minus 1. So this is the relationship between refractive index, angle of prism, and minimum angle of angle of deviation. That is all the properties of prism. So we can just connect all properties of prism at the single place. So now students, as this was properties of the prism that we have discussed now, up to that one, some formula like for the combination of the lenses and lens maker formula we have seen today. So let's end our class here with this discussion. In next class you will see the dispersion of white light through prism and other all optical instruments. So thank you students for today.